And this is why I have to do more than one thing at once, because I'm keeping an eye on who's joining, and I'm keeping an eye on who is already in the room. Great. So does everyone have a cup of tea or a drink? And has everyone had their lunch?
Yeah.
I really hope so. Great.
You've got a drink, Vicky? I forgot to make one.
Yeah, you've all got people in the offices to make you cuppas. That's great. If I shout down to my partner downstairs, he's like, no, you come and make me one. David's nodding. Yeah. Wonderful. Right, so we'll begin. So we're on this call for the next 40 minutes and it will be recorded. So if there's anything that you want to go over again, or you want to watch it again in your own time, then it will be shared internally. So I'm Rachel. I work at Cheshire Wildlife Trust, as my t-shirt here so very nicely demonstrates. I'm a natural wellbeing assistant for Cheshire Wildlife Trust. So I work in our health and wellbeing team. Cheshire Wildlife Trust, who is familiar with Cheshire Wildlife Trust? Has anyone heard of the work that we do? It's okay to say no. Claire's nodding. I know you have. So Cheshire Wildlife Trust is a grassroots conservation charity. They've been working for nature for the past 60 years almost, with a mission to bring wildlife back. So to bring wildlife back for everyone, everywhere. And we are part of a nationwide movement. So there's 47 wildlife trusts across the UK, all working to protect wildlife through better management of the outdoors, working to connect people to nature so that they can act on nature's behalf as well. So for the people who didn't join when I'd said this, if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat, please feel welcome to. I work within the Nature Connection team, so on a Wellbeing with Nature programme. And what this is delivering a 6-week structured programme, helping people to connect to nature, to improve their physical and their mental wellbeing, and to work towards achieving individual goals. So a lot of people that we work with are experiencing poor health, or are people who are furthest from the job market, out of work, trying to get back into work. And the programme brings together the 5 ways to well-being, so being active, connecting, taking part, keeping learning, and giving back to nature, and the pathways to nature connectedness, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We also interweave nature conservation activities, so people currently at home are learning what they can do for nature at home on their doorstep, and we also weave in mindfulness throughout, which we're going to learn a little bit about later and have a practice at it. Before I continue, I'm just going to pin myself here so that it doesn't record everybody who is also on, but I can still see you. Oh, wonderful. So you will all know more than me that the number of people with ill mental and physical health is rising. There's also a significant inequality which can be related to access to green and natural outdoor space. And there's another major crisis in conservation. So nature is in significant trouble and wildlife is in decline. I won't share the numbers here because it's pretty dire. But there's a large body of research that over the past 30 to 40 years, which shows that daily contact with nature and nature spent in natural environments is linked to better health and well-being, also linked to mental resilience, reducing levels of chronic stress, reductions in obesity, and improving concentration. So the health and wellbeing work across the wildlife trusts is proving really effective for participants' health and wellbeing, but as well as that, it's contributing to their pro-environmental behaviours. So increases in noticing nature, they are positively associated with pro-conservation behaviours, more people helping wildlife. So for example, doing things like feeding the birds during these winter months, which we're going to again talk about a little bit later. As well as spending time in nature, tuning into nature can help us to build a more significant relationship with the natural world, of which we are a part of, but modern day doesn't necessarily enable us to live that sort of close connected, lifestyle. So this is where those pathways to nature connectedness come in. And those nature connectedness pathways are senses, our emotion, beauty, and compassion. I'm just going to mute you because I can hear you chatting, so sorry to take the power. And if I know how to share my screen here effectively, you should now all be able to see the pathways to nature connectedness. Can you all see this green PowerPoint? Fab. So these pathways to nature connectedness provide a route for people to develop this new relationship, which supports physical and mental well-being, but also the well-being of our natural world. And if you look down here on this left-hand side, it goes into detail a little bit about what all those pathways to nature connectedness are. And if I just pull up, I'll stop my screen sharing here. However, in the chat box, I'm going to share a link where you can find out more a little bit about that. So please just bear with me while I copy and paste. And your chat box is about to. Oh, goodness, don't want to send it just to Claire. There we go. So as a result of engaging in Cheshire Wildlife Trust's natural wellbeing programmes, we've seen 92% of our participants show an overall improvement in their health and wellbeing scores. And there's all sorts of information on the Wildlife Trust website, which I've shared in the chat box there, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about our health and wellbeing work. Now, before you signed up, well, after you signed up for this programme, I would have shared the Natural Wellbeing Engagement Pack taster with you. Did anybody have a chance to have a look through that pack? It's okay to say no. I can see a couple of people nodding. Great, thanks, Victoria. So in there, what we do with our programme is we interweave while we're working from home and we're working support, well, some of us are working from home, and while we're supporting people who are accessing this programme very much from home, we're encouraging people to be able to go out for their daily walk, their daily exercise, whilst tuning into the senses and tuning into those 5 pathways to nature connectedness. So I don't know if any of you have had any chance to go for a walk today, yesterday, in the past week, in the past month. I can imagine you are all extremely busy. So what I thought I would do is just give ourselves a minute. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to tune into a nature video where you can just take a moment to enjoy the views. So again, I'll share my screen and the sound will stay off. So often when we are engaging in nature, going for a walk, it might be that we're going from A to B and we don't have that chance to just truly focus on the nature around us, you know, using our senses to tune into what we can see, what we can hear. And if you did watch that video just then and you've got a notebook nearby, I'm going to invite you just to write down 3 words that you associate with either how watching that really short clip made you feel, or 3 things that you tuned into using your senses. So you didn't have your hearing, obviously, or you weren't able to touch those trees, but maybe using the sense of sight, and just note down 3 things. We won't share those, so they are just for you. And there's increasing research that's coming out that says that virtual nature engagement. So watching, nature shows on television, listening to sounds of the ocean before going to sleep, they can also have a really positive effect on our health. And there's loads of stuff coming out about that as well, which if you are interested in, it's just a quick Google away. Mindfulness is a practice which we use to help us to tune in, and it also helps us to ground and relax. Has anybody practiced mindfulness, heard of mindfulness, or know what mindfulness is about? I can see a couple of nods. Great. Well, there's absolutely zero need for any background knowledge. Mindfulness can really help us to relax and develop our attention to the present moment, the here and now. An important part of it is reconnecting to our bodies and the sensations that they experience, waking up to the senses, the sights and the sounds, the smells and the tastes of the present moment. And that might be, for example, when you drink a cup of tea, feeling the warmth of the mug in your hands, tasting the flavors of the tea and the milk and the sugar as you drink from it, and maybe even noticing the comfort that a cuppa can provide. Another part of mindfulness is learning how to be aware of our thoughts and our feelings as they happen moment to moment, without distraction and without judgment. Because our minds are very much like puppies, and without the right training, they are really easily distracted. They might not behave as we want them to, and they can feel quite unruly for many people. Mindfulness is a way to train our minds to be aware of what's going on, to help us to have more control over it rather than it having control over us. So the grounding practices that we do are a way to reorient and relax ourselves from one experience to another, such as coming from whatever piece of work you were doing before today, or whatever piece of activity. Maybe, if you are working from home, that could have been absolutely anything, and to showing up and being present here in this time for these moments. As I mentioned, it can help us to release tension that we hold in our bodies. And it's a resource that can be done anywhere, and it's completely free. You don't even need to download all these apps and things that are coming out. It's a practice that you can do in your own time. So, for example, taking slower, longer or deeper breaths can help us to calm down. And you might have experienced this yourself, when you're sat in traffic or sat on the bus waiting to get somewhere, and you're feeling the frustration rise. By bringing the attention to your breath and taking some deeper breaths can actually allow the body to release and relax a little bit. Noticing our thoughts when they arrive, and without getting lost in them is the kind of fundamental practice behind mindfulness. So we're going to give it a go. And I know some of you are in offices where there's other people around, and there'll be plenty of distractions. So give it a go. See how it is for you. If you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. It's an optional practice. All I ask is that you're respectful to other people who are giving it a go. Now, this is a peaceful, quiet activity. So if you have a phone that is prone to pinging alerts every now and then, I encourage you to, I see a couple of expressions saying, I know what that means. I encourage you to pop it on silent. It's only going to be for a few minutes, so you can be back in the digital world of communication soon. And we usually do these practices sitting. So if you're sitting, can you just bring your attention to your body a little bit, and without sort of making your body and your spine uncomfortable and in an upright position, just bring that awareness into how the body is making contact with the chair. I will guide you with my voice, and we'll take a few moments just to arrive here in this space together, bringing our attention to our senses and to our breathing. Now, we use the term changing breath, and this is to signify transitioning from one place mentally and physically to another, but also to allow everybody to breathe to their own capacity. So it's signifying a slightly deeper breath or a slightly longer exhale, but it shouldn't be forceful, and it shouldn't be uncomfortable or anxiety inducing. So before we begin, you might want to take some gentle movement. That might just be wiggling your toes in your shoes or on the floor beneath you, or gently just tapping your fingers onto your thighs and reminding your body, to wake up a little bit if you, like me, have been sat here for a while. And place both of your feet on the ground. So if they're crossed, uninvite that cross and place both soles of the feet on the floor. If you're sat at a computer, you might want to just gently turn away from the screen. So if you've got a window nearby that you would like to look out of while still being able to hear the practice, please feel welcome to do that. Or if it's comfortable, you could close the eyes and trust that nobody else is looking at the screen, or I'm pinned, so nobody can see anybody other than me anyway. And make yourself comfortable. Making sure that the feet are flat on the floor if that's comfy for you. And resting your hands somewhere down by the sides of the body or on the table in front of you. Take 2 changing breaths here. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And returning to the natural breathing that your body does. Becoming aware again of your body's contact with the chair and how you are feeling in this moment, this afternoon. When you notice your thoughts have drifted away, gently bring your focus back to the sound of my voice and try to resist the urge to get frustrated with yourself when this happens. Our minds are thought machines and they're just doing their job when they wander off. It's part of the experience for all of us. What matters is the way that we bring ourselves back, ideally in a non-judgmental way. Now try to visualize that there's a river close by and listen to the sounds of the steadily moving water. Trickling downstream. And as you visualize, maybe it's spring, maybe it's summer. It doesn't have to be these minus temperatures that we are experiencing right now. But try to visualize yourself walking towards the river and find a spot to settle down for a while. This may be a bench or a stone, or maybe you've brought a camp chair with you. Take some time to watch the river float by and listen to the sounds of the moving water. You might notice that some leaves from a nearby tree fall into the river. Gently watch them as they get carried past the spot where you sit and they float by. Follow one leaf with your gaze until you cannot see it anymore. Taking your time to watch the leaves as they float by you and out of sight. If you have a thought that's going through your mind at this moment, gently place it on the next leaf that is passing by. It could be a word, a sentence, or maybe a judgment. Place it on the leaf and watch it float by, down the river, drifting out of sight. Maybe there is more than one leaf that comes to mind very quickly. They can be placed on separate individual leaves, and I'll watch them as they float into the water and pass by. And maybe there aren't any thoughts coming at all, and trust that that's okay. Just watch the river as it floats by. If a thought gets caught and isn't flowing away, maybe it's swirling around or behind a stick, gently encourage it to move away and watch where it goes. And if the same thought comes up repeatedly, place it on a leaf and watch it float by. And when you've had enough of practicing for today, thank the river for being there and all those leaves to carry your thoughts. And gently let the scenery of the river dissolve in your mind. knowing that you can come back here at any time to practice letting go of something. And take a moment to sense your body sat on the chair, the room that you're in, and the feet on the ground. Begin to notice the sounds around you. If your eyes were closed or lowered, or you're facing away from the screen, inviting you just to come back. And again, tapping fingers to thighs or the table and wiggling toes in the socks. If you have a pen or a paper, I'd invite you to write down 3 words that describe that experience for you. If you don't have a pen and paper to hand, just think about how that felt for you, your experience. If anybody would like to share, they are welcome to in the chat, but it's completely optional. So if you would like to share, pop your reflections in the chat. Now, I promised that we would do a volunteer for nature activity. Thank you so much, David. And the activity that we're going to do today, which is one of the favourites in the programme, and it's great for this time of year, is making bird feeders. So in winter especially, birds need time, birds need to find high energy and high fat resources and foods to help build their strength and maintain their reserves over these cold, very cold days at the moment. So I don't know if anyone has seen an increase in birds in their garden or out of the office window or their home window recently. I certainly have here where I am. In Cheshire East, feels like they're all gearing up ready for spring, and they're all looking for the last of the winter berries and winter fruits. So we make these bird feeders, and if you've got lots of birds coming into your garden, you will soon notice that they are gone within a few days. Now, does anyone have any ingredients with them to make their bird feeders during the session? No? George and Leo do. Fantastic, brilliant. I can't see George and Leo, but great. So I will run through. Hi there, nice to see you both. So I'll run through how we're going to do it. In the engagement pack, I've shared the Wildlife Watch activity, which goes through step by step what to do. It's a really fantastic activity to do. Great to share with family. It's great to do on your own, and it's something that if you put it outside where you've got a spot to watch, you'll see a flurry of wildlife come to feed on our bird feeders. And these can really be made with anything that you've got around the house. So I'm going to share my screen again. Wonders of technology. Here we go. Can everybody now see the how to make a bird feeder screen? Yep, I can see George and Leo nodding. Fantastic, brill. So what do you need to make a bird feeder? We need some dry ingredients, things that the birds find delicious. So you can either buy some bird feeder, or you can use dried fruit and chopped nuts. Those nuts need to be chopped. We don't want to be choking our little feathered friends. Breadcrumbs, cooked rice, only cooked rice. And believe it or not, they really like grated cheese. So if you've got all those ingredients, George and Leo and everybody else who's doing this in their own time, we want something to put those ingredients in. So a pine cone works really well because we can put the fat into the little grooves within the pine cone and then stick all the other bits to it. A yogurt pot works really well, but an empty loo roll also works a treat. So I'm sure everybody has an empty loo roll at some point over the next week. And what you do, if you take whatever it is that you're using, so I can see George and Leo have loo roll, and we want some hard fat. So if you've got some hard fat, we're going to smother and cover that loo roll or that vessel. Brilliant. Yep, I can see you there with your bits. We're going to cover the loo roll or the pine cone or the coconut shell in that fat. You can also use peanut butter. So the birds go mad for peanut butter, but it's entirely up to you. So if you've got your fat, what we want to do is cover the vessel that we're using. And then in a bowl, we're going to mix all the other ingredients. So if I stop sharing here, just for a moment, I can see you all. So we're going to get the loo rolls and we're going to use that fat to smother all of the outside of the toilet roll. You can even pop some inside here. So if you make a start at doing that, fantastic. You might need some help with that fat. It might need melting a little bit. Or if you've got peanut butter, that works a treat. So you can just literally smother it in peanut butter and then get a bowl and we're going to wrap it all around their brill. I can see a few people getting. So I'd invite you while you're on the call and while you're making your feeders to think about how nature has helped you in the past year. Has it helped you? What is it about nature that has helped you? And what is it about the activities that you're doing in nature that, Lorraine, that's absolutely fine, not to worry at all. I know you're all working. Well done for taking 40 minutes out of your day to do this session. What is it about nature? And what is it about the qualities of nature, spending time in nature, that maybe restore you, maybe bring a sense of calm to you? And again, if you've got a notebook and you want to make notes around that, then please feel free to. So I know a few people are going to be doing this activity in their own time. So in the chat, I'm going to share where you can find out a bit more about why feeding the birds is so important and download that Wildlife Watch activity. So here we go. If you are a avid or new bird watcher or interested in birds, I'll share a link as well so that you can find out a bit more information there too. And I'll share all these resources with people who are joining in this activity separately. There we go. If you'd like to make a note of those, or you can save the chat at the end of this, the end of the call. You can see George and Leo getting involved with their bird feeders. They're sticking some of that fat in there, getting the nuts and seeds in there. Somebody actually mentioned to me yesterday how important it is when we're using dried fruits, just to be really conscious of people who might have dogs nearby. So if you know that, if you have dogs, you probably know this, but if you have neighbours' dogs who occasionally like to come into the garden and you're using raisins, they are really, really poisonous to dogs. So please be mindful of that if you're including raisins into your bird feeders. And then once you've made it, all you need to do, if you're using a loo roll, is attach a little bit of string to the end and then pop it up somewhere where the birds can come and feed from it. So a little bit like this. I bought this bird feeder coconut shell yonks ago, and I reuse it, cleaning it every time, but including that little bit of string there just to hang it up out of the way of my two quite feral cats. And in the pack that we shared with you, I included some mindfulness cards. So it's an activity that you might want to do over the next week or so, and maybe invite your colleagues to do it with you too, or your family to do it with you too, and then share how it was for you. So I'll just give you a quick taster of what this looks like. Here are our mindfulness cards. So it's encouraging us to get outdoors, go for a walk, get that exercise, and you might want to print these cards off, cut them up and take them with you. So we begin by observing and noticing how we feel in the space that we're in. And then we move on to the notice card, the listen card, the smell, touch and take time cards before coming home and having a brew to warm up from this wild weather that we've got at the moment. So that's in the pack that I've emailed across to you. It's in the last page. And there's also Cheshire Wildlife Trust have recently released a digital wellbeing pack. So we released it during Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. So it does talk to children, but it's completely adult friendly too. And it includes all sorts of things that you can do to support your own well-being. And I'll share that in the chat as well. So a link here. Just seen the comment that says, watching George and Leo is relaxing me. Well done, boys. Beautiful. You're the stars of the show. How are you getting on with the bird feeders? I can see mucky hands. Yeah, fantastic. Brill. And are you putting bird feed in there or nuts and seeds? I think that's bird feed. Oh, blimey, you've got lots there. Fantastic. Brilliant. Gorgeous. So you keep making those. So we've shared a few resources about well-being with nature and the mindfulness practices that we can do. There are all sorts of apps and platforms out there that do provide sorry, someone's just joined the waiting room, so I was letting them in, that provide free resources and mindfulness activities to do with guided audio. And again, you know, you can search for those online. The BBC are doing stuff at the moment around soundscapes for well-being, so you could have a look into that as well. I'd like to invite everybody again just to maybe share something in the chat or verbally if you would like to. About something that you are thankful for today. So something in your day that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for everybody who has come along today, everybody who is listening to this, to George and Leo for relaxing everybody who's watching them make their bird feeders. Thank you so much for sharing. Thankful for those two nature loving lads right there. Wonderful. And we're almost at the end of this session. So we've scheduled it in for 40 minutes to now give you 5 minutes back for your day to either go and take 5 minutes to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, to go and have, you know, stick your head out of the window if it's safe to do so and look at the birds and listen to the sounds of the trees and the wind out there, and to take those 5 minutes back for your day. Thank you so much. Grateful for organising this and being able to take some healthy time out. Good luck, George and Leo. Wonderful. So I am going to stop the recording, and if anybody would like to stay on to ask any questions or to share anything without this recording, please feel welcome to. So I'll just stop my recording here.